I think it's definitely the best bet. Obviously, quarterback sneak doesn't stand a chance, and even just, fullback dive, there just really isn't any room to work with there. Goal line defense. Honestly, for the past while, I haven't bothered to set up a plan for goal line. I figured, well, if they're close enough to scoring, just a yard or half a yard or so, just let them, let's get on with it. Which is obviously, a terrible mindset to be in, especially since a key fourth down stop can often be the difference between winning and losing a game. So I want to share with you guys what I cooked up for myself. It isn't game tested yet, but I think it makes a lot of sense. Since it is in goal line 6-2, it will be in absolutely everybody's playbook, so definitely give it a try. It's a really simple, easy setup, which requires very little of you, just to memorize a couple of steps. So try that out and let me know how it works for you. Otherwise, we'll get started with goal line 6-2. The play is 60 out, and we'll get into why this particular play in a little bit. And we'll start with fullback dive, which is a really, really popular way of getting a yard or two when players really desperately need it. So right away, this defense just on its own isn't very good. So I can do a number of these goal line plays and easily get into this end zone. So right here is just stock fullback dive. Usually it's really easy to walk right in there, get that score. Same thing with quarterback sneak. Now QB sneak is kind of capped at about a half a yard or a yard gain, but you see there's just nobody there to really stop the quarterback, and usually he can get that touchdown. Likewise with halfback dive. You don't see this as often, but you see it's really easy, just right in the middle there. So really right up the gut, even though each of those gaps is covered, plus you have those two linebackers, there's a lot of room to run through right there. Now it's actually pretty good toss defense. So if I go ahead and strong toss over here, you'll see that a lot of the defenders will rally, and it's really difficult to get yards with that. But really, a lot of the more popular ones like the fullback dive and the quarterback sneak, if your opponent really needs to get that half a yard or so, the quickest and easiest way is really right through the middle. And a lot of these plays out of this goal line formation really aren't good enough to make sure that they don't get that half a yard or a yard. So what we will do with this video is do the simple adjustments to this play. It can work in a couple of different plays in this formation, but a lot of them have slightly different alignments that don't really allow us to do what we want to do. So just 60 out to start off with. So what we will do, the first thing we want to do is mug the linebackers over the guards. So, at this alignment, in a real world situation, it's good because they can, gain a little bit of steam at the running back, and plus they're not totally selling out in the run. They have a little bit of space there to work in case you see a play action or something like that. But by and large, if you are coming up online and somebody is in the goal line formation, really they're likely just trying to get that half a yard or so and not worrying about play action or anything like that. So what we'll do is we'll mug them by globally blitzing our linebackers. So right on the D-pad and down on the right stick. So they're blitzing here, and we'll just you do the press coverage adjustments, which is triangle and down on the D-pad until they get mugged up on those guards right there. And then the next thing we'll do is we will reset the play. Okay, so square and L2. And so now they're not blitzing, they're in man coverage on the two backs. So I do this for two reasons. In case it is a pass, you're not totally selling out. So, you will have the fullback in the flat covered or the running back in the flat covered. So you're a little bit more sound there. But also because they're not blitzing, if you do come across a toss, and we'll get into that a little bit later on, they'll flow to the outside rather than shooting right through the middle. But also, because they're right up on those guards, they'll also be quick to react to fullback dive or quarterback sneak. So it's really a win-win for everything. Then, the last thing we'll do, we mug the linebackers, reset, and we will also pinch the defensive line. So left on the D-pad and right on the down stick, on the right stick, just to make sure we have those defensive tackles shooting right into the A gaps. So those linebackers will essentially hold the guards, and so the center is 1-on-2 on the defensive tackles. So, they won't have enough guys to block those defensive tackles right in the middle. And then the last thing is, who do you user? You don't really need to user anybody. It does well on its own. The thing I'm thinking about is just using this weak side cornerback. You don't really need to do anything, but if they do a toss to the weak side, you can come in and try to shoot that into the backfield, but we'll get into that shortly. So right away, we'll start off with QB sneak. So QB sneak right away to the right here. If they audible, sometimes your guys will reset, so you'll just have to do everything over again. But in this case, quarterback sneak, you see the defensive tackle is right there. You won't be able to get even half a yard. Likewise, if they're doing QB sneak, but to the other side, everything's really symmetrical, so there's nothing to really worry about right there. So quarterback sneak, but to the left, and you see the other defensive tackle is waiting there for you. So right away, really quarterback sneak I think is completely out of the picture, which is of course really, really nice. If they're on 4th and inches and you can't, there's absolutely not a millimeter of grass that you're going to allow them to gain. This is definitely a good option to go about it. Now, fullback dive, which I think is the more popular approach to this stuff, especially if it's 4th and 1, 4th and 2. This is more likely that something you're going to come across. So, but things don't change. It's the same setup, which is really, really quick. And in this case, we try to run it, but you see, again, one of those guys is going to be free to make the tackle. And we can try fullback dive to the right. Again, we're just doing the same setup every time. Nothing really changes, except we're doing a fullback dive to the right. And again, we have two guys kind of through there and no space to work with. Now, there are certain times where things will just get a little bit weird. A tackle animation won't trigger or anything like that, and the fullback can kind of slip through and end up getting some yards. It's not super, it's actually quite rare, but it'll happen from time to time. But I think it's still overall much better than just lining up stock, because as you saw at the beginning of the video, you can just walk into the end zone with just a stock, just a stock play like this, or if you're in a base formation like 4-3 or 3-4. I think it's really, really hard to stop. But this, I think it's definitely the best bet. Obviously, quarterback sneak doesn't stand a chance, and even just fullback dive, there just really isn't any room to work with there. Then we can show halfback dive, which is far less common, I think, because it just takes much longer to get that handoff, rather than just keeping with the quarterback or just a quick handoff to the fullback. Most people don't want to spend that time handing it off and potentially getting guys shooting in the backfield. But if we show it right here, everything's the same as what we usually do, and we go halfback dive, you'll see usually multiple guys will be there in the backfield, so it's usually a loss, let alone a small gain. And so if you are playing against a smart player who sees 4 guys between the guards, likely they maybe won't run quarterback sneak or any of the dive plays, because there's just such a little chance of them getting anything through the middle there. They'll try to take it outside, and likely what they'll do is pick strong toss this way. So right here, everything's the same. We have the linebackers mugged up. They're in their man coverage. And then what will happen here is that the cornerback is usually completely free here to make a play on the ball carrier. So what happens here is that the entire line, including the tight ends, is preoccupied with the defensive line and the linebackers. So then what you have is the fullback has to block both of these guys essentially. So he picks obviously the inside guy, and the cornerback is completely free to make a play. Now obviously your opponent can make a move here, like a juke or a spin or something like that. But I think usually they're at this kind of tough angle here once they receive the toss, that it's kind of hard. And then if they make a spin back inside, then you'll have some of these chasing players to potentially make a tackle off of that. So usually if you click on here, you can do a little bit better job than the AI does. But the AI does a pretty good job right here. Obviously I wasn't able to evade it. Now I didn't try a spin or a juke, but if I spun or juked inside, one of these pursuing linebackers could be able to clean that up potentially. Now where things start to break down a little bit, toss to the weak side I think is a little bit less predictable. So that's why I would suggest using this guy over here so you can be aggressive and hit that back in the backfield if they do toss to the weak side. But I'll just show you how it works out with just the AI defending it. So right here, usually one of those guys is still free, and sometimes they'll run into each other and the running back will be totally free. So again, I said it a couple times, but I would suggest using that guy yourself. Now I think this is one of the least likely plays you'll see is toss to the weak side. But if they do, you can go into the backfield here, force them to cut inside to where your help is. And the last thing I want to touch on is plays like Power O, which you really rarely see. But I just want to say this so you're not totally surprised when you see it. Is that there is a big gap there behind the tackle that we're not really accounting for here, because we're really trying to stop everything in the middle and then have a little bit of success on the outside against the toss. But really behind the tackle and behind the fullback on those lead plays, this defense really isn't great against. But if we set everything up right here, and I'll show you Power O, it's really quite easy for them to just walk behind that fullback and get into that end zone. So it is still a little bit of a give and take. I think this is a good defense for the popular stuff you'll see. Again, quarterback sneak, fullback dive, toss. Not so good against just regular Power O. Now I think if you ran this stock and they're running Power O, it does a better job, I think, at clogging those lanes. But by and large, I'm not really too concerned with that play. Again, it's such a rare thing. If I really need a 4th and inches stop, I'm definitely going to come to this. Totally plug the middle, have a little bit of help on the outside, and then if they're going to be smart with it, well then, good on them. They bait me there, but I'm no longer just going to line up in 4-3 quarters and just let them walk into the end zone and then, start with the next drive. I'm actually going to put up a little bit of fight here, and I hope you guys do too. Yeah, let me know how it goes. Let me know if you have any adjustments that you build off of this to help, deal with those weak side tosses a little bit, or help deal with the Power O a little bit, or if there's other things that you found that it's weak on, I'd definitely love to know. But other than that, that's it for this one, and I'll see you guys in the next one.